and the greatest.
Someone with color. Someone with color. Someone with dash. Someone with color.
What is up, guys? Marcellus Williams, aka TheSwolefessor, here to educate you on health and social well-being. And today, guys, we're going to be talking about wrist straps. Now, as you guys can see, there's a picture of wrist straps in the thumbnail because I currently do not own a pair of wrist straps. But before my wrist strap loving fans exit this video, no, I am not someone who's anti-wrist strap. You guys know that I'm usually not that dogmatic. So long as there's some type of beneficial scientific application to the piece of equipment, I'm not opposed to it. But I bring that up just because I don't want you guys to confuse wrist straps with wrist wraps, being, you know, these. Very different things. I don't even know how they get confused. I guess because wrap sounds like straps, but wrist wraps, these are things that you wrap around your wrist. Just helps you with wrist stability if you're doing something like, you know, heavy pressing, or maybe if you're low bar squat and you have problems with keeping your wrist secure, things like that. So don't want you to get those two things confused. Now, with that being said, let's talk about wrist straps. Now, as I said, I'm not anti-wrist strap. I think they're like most pieces of equipment, that they have a time and place to be used, but the problem is that most people don't know when that time and place is, and most people abuse them because they use them when they shouldn't be, or at least when I believe they shouldn't be, for the mere fact that, man, look, simply put, a lot of people go into the gym and start using wrist straps from the start, from the get-go. Just like a lot of people who just start lifting weights automatically go get a weightlifting belt, or go and get knee sleeves or knee wraps, these things that I've already covered before. And here's the problem with that, guys. In terms of wrist straps, we have to understand that, first of all, let's talk about what they do. They pretty much take your grip strength out of the equation of whatever your lift is. They're predominantly used on pulling motions, so like, you know, back dominant movements. Some people use them on deadlifts. That's pretty much what they're for, and they take your grip out of it. Why? Because oftentimes our grip strength can be a hindering factor for us, in the same way a lot of people's core are a hindering factor for them on the squat or deadlift. Sometimes your grip strength is a hindering factor for you on certain pulling exercises. Your back may be strong enough to handle a certain load, your bicep may be strong enough to handle a certain load, but maybe your forearm strength isn't there, your grip strength just isn't there. So a lot of people use straps. Now, here is the problem with this. If you start to use them from the get-go, the moment you start lifting, then you are going to greatly neglect building up your grip strength, which is important in weightlifting as a whole. I don't think I have to really go into a lot of detail to explain why grip strength is important. You're holding heavy weights all the time, so as such, you want to have a strong grip. Furthermore, in doing that, you're taking away from your forearm development. Now, mind you, I don't have the best forearms. I'll be the first to admit that. I don't hit my forearms directly or anything like that. If it's not through heavy deadlifts or pulls, I don't hit them. But the reality is, I guarantee you, they would be a lot smaller and less developed if I use straps from the very start of my weight training, for the mere fact that it's taking your grip strength out of it. And your grip strength and your forearm go hand in hand. So that's why a lot of people who just come in with the mindset of, all right, I'm just gonna start using them from the get-go, it's gonna help me lift more weight. You don't wanna do that, guys. You have to remember the whole point of lifting weight and gradually getting stronger, doing more work, is to develop your strength, to develop your muscle, develop your body, and you kind of take that away. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and state right now, I don't believe there's ever a reason that somebody should be using straps on the deadlift, period. Now, if you're, and I'm talking about, you know, a conventional deadlift or a sumo deadlift, like a pull where you're pulling from the floor, I don't think there's ever a reason that somebody should be using straps on those. Now, with that being said, people who want to use chalk, that's different. A lot of people have the mindset that chalk and straps work in the same way, that, oh, chalk must take away from your grip strength too. Why? Because it helps you like with holding onto the bar. Not the case. As I briefly mentioned in my last video, when it comes to chalk, it's the fact that, one, it just keeps your hands from sweating, because obviously you have less chance of dropping the bar if your hands aren't sweating, and two, it keeps your hands from tearing up. There's nothing magical about chalk that's going to improve your grip strength. It just protects your hands, and really, you should always use chalk when you're deadlifting, at the very least when you're deadlifting heavy, just because it will prevent tearing of the skin, and it'll help you as far as like, you know, your hands sweating, everything like that. It's more of a safety measure than anything else, but it's not the same thing as straps, which really take your grip out of the equation. Now, here's why I say you really shouldn't use straps on the deadlift whatsoever. Keep in mind, guys, that most people, if you're deadlifting, then you may want to be doing it for powerlifting. Well, you're not gonna be able to use straps in powerlifting. So you wanna practice the way you're gonna actually perform, right? So therefore, since you can't use straps in a powerlifting meet, there's no reason to use them during practice, because even if it puts 30 pounds on your deadlift, guess what? You're not gonna be able to use those in the actual competition. So that's number one thing. The number two thing is that if you're using the deadlift for hypertrophy, for muscle building, which is great. Like, you guys already saw my video over the deadlift, the full tutorial and breakdown, where the whole thing about like, oh, deadlift's just for strength, so eagle lift doesn't work, like it's not really for hypertrophy. That's insane. It works 80% of the muscles in the body, so you guys can check that out if you want to. But the point is, if you're using it for hypertrophy, why shortchange the movement? The deadlift hit everything. It always blows my mind when you have people who try to like make adjustments to the deadlift to like, oh, I want to take more hamstring out, make it focus on the back more. I want to take more back, I'm focus on the hamstring. Like, it hits all those muscle groups, guys. It's a bang for your buck movement. You guys know I love those. So it's like, why take out a part of the movement that's gonna take away from like some of the muscle development, including your forearms? One of the best things about the deadlift is that it is going to help you with your forearm strength, with your grip strength as a whole. That's one of the best movements for that. So the fact that people want to use straps to take their grip out of it, you're really kind of shortchanging yourself. Yes, you're going to be able to move more weight that way, but if you're not involved in powerlifting, then does it really matter how much you're moving on? At that point, it really is just for your ego, because once again, in powerlifting, you can't use the straps. So there's no reason to do it for the sake of, oh, I just want to increase the amount that I can lift. If you're using for hypertrophy, you're shortchanging that, because the straps are going to take away from your forearm hypertrophy. Another thing you have to keep in mind, guys, is that the deadlift is a really good way of gauging how fatigued you are, as far as like if you're maybe doing too much work, too much volume just as a whole. Because if, let's say that you're someone who usually you can pull like in the 400-500s, right? And your grip strength is giving you trouble giving out in the 300s, that may be a sign that you need to back down. You may be overreaching and getting to the point where you may be overtraining. So because of that, it's good to use the deadlift as a way of gauging that. Because I can tell, like, sometimes, like, at whatever point I do my deadlifts during the week, what the rest of my week is going to look like based on how I perform with that. But you're not gonna be able to do that if you're using straps. Why? Because the grip strength's not even gonna be involved at that point. So that's why I just don't see the benefit of using straps for your deadlifts. If you just come in one day, just you're curious, oh, how much it's gonna add into it, I get it, it's fun, it's interesting, you wanna see, but to do it consistently, I think you're shortchanging yourself. Now, let's talk about your other pulling movements, your back movements, your rows, everything like that. First and foremost, just like I said with the weightlifting belt, I think you need to have an established base of strength before you even consider touching straps. Meaning, if you're doing like some type of bent over barbell row, pin leg row, if you're not messing with, I wanna push it to 315 to be honest, but a minimum of 275 pounds on a row, I don't think you need to be touching straps, period. Anything under 275, no reason to be using straps. Why? Because you need to build that base of strength for your back, your biceps, and your grip strength. If you're at the point where, you're still struggling with 225, it's like, you don't need to strap up. You need to just let yourself get stronger. Your grip strength will catch up. That's the problem a lot of people have. They think that like, well, my grip's always gonna be weak into your back. And yes, that's true. Your back, like I said, in the video I just did over back, it can take a pounding, it can recover, it can take more volume frequency. Yes, your grip strength will always be behind your back, but your grip strength can catch up to where you can still do more total work volume without having to rely on straps. Now, with that being said, if you're at the point where you are doing some serious heavy rows, like 275 plus, then I can understand strapping up. Why? Well, because once again, your back is at a point where it's probably gonna need a little bit more total work and volume. If your back's already strong enough to do like 275 plus reps, well, then guess what? Doing sets of only doing sets like 2 or 3 with 315 isn't gonna be as beneficial for your overall back development training as if you can get sets of 8 to 10, which the straps may very well help you do that. So in that case, I understand it. But even then, during your warm-up sets and your workouts working up to that, you don't need to be having straps, and you need to still have that established base of strength, just because it's gonna be worth it for you in the long run. And then the second thing, guys, is like people who you see them using a bunch of straps on machines and things like that. That kind of depends, because once again, I can understand if you start off really heavy on some heavy barbell movements, right, or free weight movements, and as you go through, you get to the point where you're on machines now, and your grip's so taxed, but your back can still take a little bit more, so then maybe you use straps to adjust for the volume there. That makes sense. However, what doesn't make sense is people who go in, start with their machine work, and they're just gonna strap up right from the beginning. Like, there's just no need for that, guys. In the sense of, if you're dealing like, 2-3 plays on a hammer strength row machine or a cable row, and you have to strap up for that, that tells me that you need to build up your overall strength. Just because it's gonna be more beneficial to you in the long run. It's gonna help you not just with your overall strength, but once again, it's gonna help you gauge your fatigue, and then more importantly, it's gonna help you with that forearm development, especially if you're someone like myself where you don't do direct forearm work. So many people, forearms, they struggle with forearms already, like it's almost like, the calves of the upper body. So why shortchange the total development you'll get from them by strapping up and taking your grip out of these movements that are gonna do a lot of work on your forearms? So that's pretty much it, guys. That's pretty much how I feel about straps. That's how I feel about when and when you shouldn't utilize them. If you guys have any questions, you already know, leave in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a comment down below letting me know that you did. If you did not enjoy the video, leave a comment down below letting me know what I can do to get better. Like the video, share, subscribe, keep it simple, specific, scientific. I'll catch y'all later.
I am the greatest.
Someone